Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Northpointe Plus. This is our follow-up podcast to our messages on Sundays. We gather on Sundays, and then this conversation helps us to keep the conversation going. And next to me is not Rick.
We're both not Rick, but it took two of us to demonstrate that we're not
To
Rick.
fill Rick's seat, we need two not Ricks.
Okay.
Wow, I did not know where you were going to end that sentence at. You need two.
Neither.
Yeah.
Not Ricks.
Yeah, that's
What's the office reference where I just keep speaking?
just keep talking until something
comes out. I just keep saying words. That's what I was doing in that moment.
I like that, Mark, you and I both have some stuff pulled up because we have some thoughts that are in our head, and Jake's got he's got Candy Crush over there.
Yeah, totally blank. You guys did it, so I totally pulled it up.
He kind of looked over, was like, oh. And so anyways.
I might need to get something over here. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's fine. You do you. I am not going to judge you.
Yeah.
Don't get mad when I yell out high score, okay?
Well, I'm impressed at where you're at. I haven't got to the kingdom level yet. So. Is that a thing? I just made that up. I have no idea.
Still
I'm
stuck.
sorry.
You're still stuck on the first level.
Sorry, you're trying to get this podcast going, Mark, and I derailed us again.
No, this is what I want to happen.
Oh.
Natural, organic conversation. Makes it feel
a lot more
natural.
A lot more editing required.
Yeah.
We don't edit these, do we? Actually,
not a bit.
Yeah, I
Makes
know.
it easier for me.
Real scary.
Hey, Easter was yesterday. That was fun.
Yeah.
Was it?
I was thinking more like, was that it? Like it's over now?
I'm just trying to steer the conversation somewhere.
Easter was yesterday. It's over now.
Trying to steer the conversation away from Candy Crush.
We're on to Monday. Easter's like this perpetual thing, right? It just sort of it goes on and on, kind of like Jesus.
I think it does.
Well, I just did it.
Man, you're preaching.
Sorry.
Wow, that was a hardcore
Isn't that great?
pause.
Is that awkward pause?
Sometimes
I
I
wanna
like,
see
for
what
the people
happened.
that are only listening on audio, I like to leave just a little bit of a pregnant pause, and they'll be like, did it stop?
What's wrong? What's wrong
Did it
with
freeze?
What's wrong?
Because you know someone was listening to it in their car, and they're like, my phone's skipping
yeah,
again. No. Your phone's skipping like a CD.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That doesn't happen.
Easter, we celebrated Easter yesterday.
did.
Yeah,
it was
we
a
did.
blast.
Yeah. Do you have do you do anything special in your home? Like the
Like
Adkins?
traditions?
Yeah, like the Adkins clan, the current Adkins clan. Because growing up, I don't know, whatever, I guess, growing up or now.
We did, growing up, we always did Easter baskets Sunday morning. So we'd wake up, my mom would have baskets for everyone. I have a massive family, so we have the massive dining room table where all 10 seats have a basket. I think either the day before or the day after, we would do like an Easter egg hunt. That got progressively more competitive, and it just turned into Easter egg fights.
Like what kind of stuff was in the baskets? Like good stuff, or was this like you got socks and chapstick?
They were like, I can think back to, you would get bags of candy, which was great.
Yeah.
And then you would get like one thing that you liked.
Like a toy,
so
like
I would get
something
like,
fun.
I loved movies growing up.
Okay.
My family loved movies. So I would get like, I remember getting one Sunday, Easter Sunday, I got The Matrix Revolutions.
Oh,
which
that's Easter.
it was very
Easter-y.
Somewhat, there's an Easter tie-in.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Yeah.
Hey, I can connect it. That's a separate podcast. I can connect it.
Mark has his own podcast.
Yeah.
All
Follow
right,
my Matrix side podcast.
Good. Do you have traditions, Howard clan, current Howard clan?
Yeah, we did all the Easter egg hunt stuff. I think most families do. Growing up, I was talking to my mom yesterday. She's still doing it with the grandkids.
Oh.
Yeah, but they're getting money now.
Oh. Yeah.
Like in the eggs. What? Yeah, that never happened with me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds cool. It's lazy. It's so much easier. I'm just saying, from a family who did money, like with our kids, it was born for me, not for your parents. That's
No, they thought they were definitely thinking.
Did they listen to
$dollar
this?
Bills. Probably not.
Okay, good. Yeah, then it's lazy. It's straight up. It's just easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easier from like, you don't have to go out and buy candy. You
Oh
can just
yeah, and then you try to
pawn it off
fit it in
your
an
kids.
egg. The eggs have gotten smaller over the years. I'm hitting 50. I remember they used to be.
conspiracy theory?
I think it's gotten more complicated. You know, what can you get in there now? One Hershey Kiss or a 20.
You give them $20 in an Easter egg?
No, I'd put a 20 in one Easter egg, hide it in a really high spot, and then I found that every year. I'm not stupid.
Hey, so growing up, when I was in youth group, the church we were at did the huge Easter egg hunt for everybody, and they had a ton of property, like tons of acreage, and it was a whole wooded area. And they gave us all these eggs, and we're like, hey, go hide these. And so for the first 5 minutes, we're like hiding eggs, but then I'm like, man, we still got literally like 3,000 eggs here to hide. We found a hollowed out tree.
Oh,
And just
the
dumped
honey pot.
all of this in and sat back and watched this one little boy just freeze.
The
in
mother
front of us,
bug.
like,
Yeah.
like didn't know what to say, just like shakes his hands like, oh, it was so awesome. We never did Easter egg hunts for kids after that again.
This
but
might just be me, but
Oh.
I remember when our girls were growing up, we'd take them like they'd have community-wide Easter egg hunts.
Oh, sure.
So
Like
it
a
was
local park?
Yeah, yeah. And maybe I'm just cynical. I'm cynical. I'll just confess it. But it was always so like terrifyingly competitive. Like, because parents are in the back, they're like, "Get the egg! You get that egg!" I mean, just like, good night. She's 5 in a dress. Like,
It turned into
Does
the
it-
Hunger Games.
yeah, it was. We didn't do that very often. We're like, I'm gonna lose my salvation here, which I don't think you can do. But I'm gonna lose it on some dad who's like, dude, it's
If you could, it would be at a local Easter egg hunt.
Anyways,
Unforgivable sin.
well, that's how we celebrate Easter. Apparently, competitive eggs.
Julie's family growing up, they did Easter egg hunts, and her dad, I think, overestimated the capacity of his children to find well-hidden eggs.
Oh, sure.
Because they, up until probably 10 years ago, were still finding Easter eggs
Oh my.
from years before, and like
kinda
these
cool.
crazy locations that because he forgot where he hid them.
That's
so
great.
he didn't know where to find them, and they were like 6. So if you're
something-
hiding Easter eggs in the gutter,
Something kind of cool about that, though. I don't know, like finding them 15 years
it
later.
worked well.
Wow, value of the dollar's gone up a bunch.
Yeah, if you're hiding a 20,
Yeah.
you could have invested that talent.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Take that back to scripture. Ain't it?
Yeah, you shouldn't put a bunch of pastors on a podcast. It's sermons galore.
It's not.
Yeah.
This is why we need Rick.
Hey, before we start talking about Jesus, because all we've done is talk about Easter eggs here, settle this debate here. Is it going to be where do you stand on the Cadbury cream egg and the Peep?
Oh man,
Two most controversial
I
Easter
will
games.
fight to the death.
Oh.
For the Cadbury egg.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
Pro egg?
Pro egg.
Yeah.
Pro egg.
Something you
So
never thought
at
you'd
my,
say.
When I worked at the university before this, my entire staff had never eaten a Cadbury egg before.
Oh.
And I was like, you guys are in your mid to late 20s. This is insane to me that you've never had a Cadbury egg. They're at every store, at every checkout aisle
Yeah.
for at least 3 months of the year. And
Yeah.
you've never had the curiosity to drop $1 and have God's gift to humanity.
Wow.
The
I'm
Cadbury
with
egg.
you.
You feel strongly about this,
Oh,
Mark.
yeah. And we it was March 14, I remember it, that we had Cadbury Day where I went to the store, bought everybody a Cadbury egg, dragged them into the conference room, and made them eat them in front of me,
Wow.
and they hated it.
You made manage.
Wow.
Eat it now! You're going to eat it and review it.
Wow.
They're like, it's so gooey. It's like, yeah.
So sometimes after these podcasts, I feel like well-meaning listeners send in things, and I'm super excited right now as to what's going to happen this next week.
Oh, we're
So
going to get suggestions.
yeah, $20 bills and Cadbury eggs. So here's hoping.
Please.
Where were you at on the Peep Cadbury egg?
Well, I'm anti-Peep personally. I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had with Peeps. I just
Yeah.
don't think they're supposed to be eaten.
Didn't you drop Peeps from a large height onto minors?
So the non-disclosure
It's
agreement.
much more fun to say it that way.
The
Minors
non-disclosure
as in
agreement.
Minors with an E or minors with an O?
Yeah, both. Both.
Okay.
They had hats
Minor
on.
minors.
Yeah, I'm just saying, lots of fun can be had from scissor lifts at 20 feet in the air, and Peeps that are on sale. Peeps get hard over time. They do get a little. Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, I'd prefer not to relive that lawsuit. So, anyways,
You actually can't. You signed an NDA.
correct. Well, hypothetically.
Hypothetically. We no one knows for sure.
Yeah, I don't.
They're just
I
anti-Peep.
really don't. Yeah, the Peeps are fun in the microwave
Yep.
when you
That's where they
microwave. So there's a
belong.
lot of fun to be had with them. I just, don't enjoy eating them.
All right.
You?
Pretty
both and?
neutral, pretty Swiss on the Peep.
Oh, that's good. Safe.
Pretty Swiss on the
Pretty
feet.
Swiss on the Peep, but I am a hardcore Cadbury cream egg person to like when Easter comes around. I don't buy them because I have made it known I'm hardcore on the Cadbury cream egg, and those that know and love me will buy me lots of Cadbury
Oh.
cream eggs. It's like
I
fantastic.
anticipate an Amazon shipment in the future here.
Oh, that would be so good.
Just yeah.
How'd you get 100 Cadbury cream eggs? It'd just be me and Mark going to town.
Well, someone I don't know how many podcasts ago it was, but you guys were talking about nard for some reason.
Yeah.
The gifts or whatever. I don't even know why you're talking about that. But
Anointing.
yeah.
Mary.
And somebody found nard. I mean, I didn't even know it was a thing you
Authentic
could find.
nard.
So
It's still in my office.
we need to anoint some people.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
You need to anoint some Peeps.
No, let's edit that.
Now
part
we're
out.
ready to start.
Okay.
Wow.
Now we're ready to start. I'll just
That
bleep it
was
out.
the cliff right there.
No one
Yeah.
will know what I say. We're kind of goofing off and talking about random topics because we have 0 questions about the message yesterday. So either Rick did a really good job explaining,
Yeah.
Just end it there. Rick did a really good
Yeah.
job explaining.
Yeah.
We'll
I was
just
going to
leave
say,
it there.
It's
or
Easter.
that people are just high on Peeps from
Yeah.
Easter and forgot to submit,
Just
which
happy
is
to
okay.
be alive.
That's
Good.
okay.
That's a good thing. When we were kind of deciding, hey, what's worth talking about today, and I kind of went on my rant about my Easter thing, so I'll steal a couple of minutes
Steal away.
because you have friends in your world, I'm sure, or people, maybe not friends, maybe it's Facebook, whatever, social media, whatever thing, and they're going to tell you Easter is this pagan holiday, and Christians try to appropriate it because that's what Christians do because they're not creative enough to come up with their own stuff, which is a lie from the devil. Christians over history have been some of the most creative people on the planet. Anyways, that's a different rant. Sorry, but this rant says that Easter absolutely is a Christian holiday.
Yeah.
And I know that there's some. I'm sure you can find a website that says, "Oh, it was named after this like a Nordic goddess or something, pagan goddess or some Germanic pagan god."
Yep.
Yeah, Easter or Oaster or whatever.
Ostarum, Eastarum.
Because the words look similar, and I just want to say that's really terrible etymology of words just because they look similar, that they are similar and they're not similar. It's also very American-centric, where we think we're the only ones who matter. Kind of like the fact that we have the standard measuring system standard that no one else uses. Anyways,
Standard
I think
for
that's how
us.
it works, right? The metric systems.
Yeah.
Anyways, go to Jake for the call. Anyway, so in English, sure, but in every other language, Easter is really the word Passover. In every French, any language you look at, it's that the name for that celebration. Clearly, and this is etymologically correct, looks like Passover.
Right.
And we, because we're Americans, that's very America. Which I'm a big fan of America, but we do some weird things. And one of those things is we've got this name that seems a little off.
Yeah.
But you can do some lineage tracing, and maybe there's some connection to some old Saxon word for Passover that gets transliterated. The history is sketchy in that. But the two things that these two goddesses or whatever, that some of our atheistic friends who want to bash Easter say it's named after is the funny part of that is there is no historical evidence that it's named after that.
Yeah, absolutely 0.
You can't find any.
Yeah.
So other than the names look somewhat
Just
similar.
that they look similar
Yeah.
in terms of their naming.
Exactly. So anyways, it's just kind of funny. It also looks like East. So we could say Easter came from the East.
Anyone that goes east is a pagan.
But, I mean, if we're just looking at words that look similar, it also looks like eat, which is something we do on Easter.
So anyone that eats is also
I don't
pagan.
know. We can make up all stuff we
These
want.
are fine stances that I'm going to take.
And you can actually do, like, if you spend 30 seconds Googling, you'll find tons of research that just says that these connections aren't made naturally. They're best guesses, and they come out of some mythological folklore that...
It's the same thing. Like, it happens with Christmas every year, too.
Yeah.
Someone says Christmas is a pagan holiday.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
It's okay.
Yeah, winter solstice was, but...
There's I mean, if you're looking for connections of pagan holidays to any holiday during the year, there are pagan holidays all over the calendar.
Yeah, great.
So you could connect them.
Yeah.
But there's really no historical evidence that says we picked Easter because of this Germanic goddess.
Yeah, Easter was always celebrated. Passover was always celebrated this time of year. It's 14th of Nisan, whatever, in that time frame, which is about now when you're trying to combine the calendars, which is difficult to do because they have different numbers.
Right. That's why Easter falls on different dates.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty cool. Anyways, so don't let your friends tell you, people on social media tell you you're celebrating a pagan
If
holiday.
it's on the internet, it must be true.
Oh my
what we've
gosh.
learned.
If that were that way, it'd be so much easier. But anyways, there's lots
I'm going to start a
fun
blog.
there. I had some confidence. Have confidence in the fact that, no, Easter is actually absolutely a Christian holiday. Been celebrated for 2,000 years. And here we
Worth
are.
celebrating.
Yeah, all over the world, too.
What was that meme you shared on Facebook, Chris, about this?
The Christians are taking over Shark Week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I
That was
remember.
pretty good.
If we're taking over pagan holidays.
Toyota-thon with us kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to go to my Facebook page to find that. So most of my Facebook page is filled with sarcastic memes because it's about what Facebook is for. Don't get me, Mark Zuckerberg. I love you, wherever you are. I don't,
Video just got shut off right here.
I shouldn't use his full name. Sorry, that's my bad.
As soon as you say his name, we're called.
Marky Z.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about while we're talking about Easter is obviously Easter's worth celebrating. It's an amazing point in history for the church. If we don't have Easter,
We have nothing.
we have really nothing.
It's all a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Paul writes in his letter that it's foolishness. It's
we above all people are to be pitied. That's just
Yes.
great language that he uses.
Yeah, if we don't have Easter. So whenever Easter comes around, it's a massive celebration. Super, super high energy, lots of excitement, lots of passion going into that. And it seems like maybe this is an observation that I have that's not true. I'll pass it over to you guys. It seems like we get really high on Easter, and then maybe a week after or 2 weeks after, that excitement kind of dies down, and we go back into the norm of church life, coming in and out Sunday mornings, doing life group, doing all the standard stuff, checking the boxes. Why is that? Why do we struggle with maintaining the reality of Easter throughout the year? Why is it come June, Easter seems so far away?
Maintaining the reality of a risen Jesus all the time.
Yep. Yeah, and I think I remembered, I can't remember, maybe I'm assigning this to you, Chris, and it's not true. I think you were the one that preached a sermon, it was about a year ago, that talked about we treat Jesus like he's dead. We don't really treat Jesus like he's alive, like he's actually the one discipling us. So you can be discipled by Jesus now, by the risen Jesus. And we just kind of, like in our daily lives, we just treat him like he's dead. Like we recognize that he arose and he was resurrected, and that's a really great thing. But what does that mean for my daily life? We just don't really treat him that way.
Yeah, I do remember preaching that. That was me. So
well, good
call on that part.
I got a steel trap up here.
Yeah, I don't have a great answer to that other than to add on to the complication and talk about our friends who only go to church on, that we say Christian and Easter, Christmas and Easter.
Yep.
And they come to church only on Easter. And I think churches across the board see that. Your numbers swell. And even yesterday, we saw a ton more people than we often do.
Yep.
And people that we know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do with all that. It's an interesting cultural phenomena to me that somehow that would matter twice a year, but worshiping a risen Savior
all the time
is not as high priority. I don't want to judge or throw anybody under the bus. I'm legitimately curious about the thinking process that goes on in that.
Yeah, I guess I'm right there with you. Like it's hard to grasp a little bit, and I think it's probably because it is a big deal. We talk about it all the time. It is those things, but you can tell, like Mark was saying before with your talk, the language that we use when we discuss Jesus, the things that he did versus the things that he's doing and still actively moving and all that. But I do wonder though if there's a comfort level that we just live in. Like, is this something that because we are in Western civilization and we live for comforts and stuff like that all the time, like it just doesn't. It's almost like we don't have to rely on the comforter himself to be a part of things. And so it's like we've lost some of that. I think there's something about in the church and why Jesus even talks about the need for persecution being a thing that's so tied together with it, like the early church and the disciples. Like, that's an incredible thing to think these guys were living that out every day, and they were in the midst of persecution, like what that does for your faith. And so I just wonder at times in Western civilization, because we have so many comforts, because even though the housing market and inflation are crazy now,
doesn't really touch us a ton.
We're still going to go on vacation.
Yeah.
We've still got trailers and cabins and all of those kinds of things, and so it's almost like we have the comforts, and so we're not living in that. And I just wonder, does that play a role? Is that why Jesus talks so much about the persecuted? The Bible has so much to say about that. And I almost wonder if like comfort is a tool that can just be used to just kind of water down our faith or our actions to be a part of that. I don't know. I've always wondered if that's just a piece of it.
It's interesting. As you're talking, I'm reading a book by Dallas Willard called Life Without Lack. I think that's what it's called. Let's go with that. And it'll come to me in a minute. But this morning, he was just talking about this concept of faith, which is, he would use the word trust, but that Christians, many have what he calls appropriate faith. So you do the appropriate things, which is partly you go to church, and maybe you only go on these days or every Sunday, whatever it is. And then he says it's important that we end up in crisis because then you have faith out of desperation. Like you have no other option. That's kind of what you're referring to. And I think Jesus, when he does the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the poor in spirit, or blessed are those who mourn, that sense of desperation. And then he thinks that faith moves on at some point to the faith of satisfaction, where you can live life without lack. And he's building off Psalm 23, but life without lack, because you just have this deeply embedded, consistent grade satisfaction in who God is, and that's a different kind of faith. And he says he doesn't put down anybody in those groups. It's a journey and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know that has anything to do with your question. But as you're talking, I'm thinking about what I'm reading this morning. It's interesting that as Americans, we don't have much lack.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about it a lot. I mean, it's something that I've always observed, and I don't know. I mean, if someone finds out the solution, let us know.
Yeah,
That'd be
right
great.
in. Yeah.
I think there's something to the with Christmas and Easter. I mean, a lot of that comes from just tradition, like we talked at the beginning of traditions. It's just tradition. You go with your family. You go at Christmas. You do the Christmas Eve service. You go to Good Friday. You do the Easter service. And I wonder, too, if there's some way that God uses that to focus in on both of those are all about Jesus. I think that's really cool. That Christmas, you can't talk about Christmas in a church without it centralizing on the birth of our Savior. You can't talk about Easter without it centralizing on the work of Jesus on the cross and the work that he did in the grave and the resurrection and all of that. And I think that for me is, it's easy to identify the problem and say, well, why aren't people coming? Why aren't people excited? Why aren't people passionate?
Yeah.
And to really turn that inward and say, okay, I always have this question of, am I sharing the good news of Jesus the way that Jesus would share it? Am I emphasizing one thing that Jesus would be like, that's a good thing, but you're really overemphasizing that thing and you're missing out on all this other stuff. And that's why I think the cool thing about those holidays is you just these are just about Jesus. I want you to meet the Savior, Emmanuel, that came to be with us at Christmas. And I want you to see this risen Savior that took on the curse and dealt with it completely and now is alive and is risen and is ruling and reigning and working in your life. And there's something cool about those two holidays that focus in on that. So of all the days to come to church, those are really good days to come. And if we can figure out a way to maintain that reality of Jesus being alive and working, I think that'd be a good thing. I don't know how to do it.
Do you think there's anything like looking in the Old Testament? I mean, there's feasts galore, right? And there are
memorials
galore and all that. Do you think there's just something like God just recognizes innately in us that, hey, you're going to do what basically the nation of Israel did all throughout the Old Testament, and that's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So there's about creating monuments. And so, hey, we need these festivals, we need these things. It's just because they center us, they refocus us, they bring us back to, because we have this broken heart and spirit that's prone to wander. Lord, I feel it.
It's a good song.
Right,
I like it.
right there. I don't want to sing.
Well, I don't wander, but it's easy to get distracted by I would say,
life.
Lesser important things, but not unimportant things. So life is important. Kids are important, and work is important, and health is important. I mean, there's so much that we do in our daily that becomes the central focus out of necessity and forgetting what's really the most important. And so you talk about festivals and memorials, and I might throw in there the importance of being in our scriptures regularly to keep us, use your language, centered and focused. Not that that's the magic bullet, but whatever I can add into me, add into my daily routine to try to maintain some correct focus, fervor, passion, direction.
Yeah, that's I think having that perspective of the Old Testament is really helpful, because as you read through, I mean, really Old and New Testament, you just are constantly reminded that everyone forgot stuff all the time. Like Israel needed these reminders because they would get really close to God and then get comfortable, and then it doesn't really matter if we break this law or if we do this thing or if we fraternize with this group that we were told not to fraternize with or whatever it might be. And you have this continual cycle of Israel forgets and God redeems, and Israel forgets and God redeems. And with the disciples, you have this continual cycle of like, you're just not getting it. You're just not getting it. You're just not getting it. And it's so easy to look in on those stories and be like, you're so dumb. Why do you keep forgetting?
Yeah, right, sure.
And then not look at my own life and be like, Mark, you're so dumb. Why do you keep forgetting the goodness of God in your life? Why do you keep being distracted? So having that reminder that this isn't anything new in the church, this is this continual cycle, and that God's faithful through all of that, and that the great thing that when you look at that story is that every time Israel forgets, God always redeems. Every time Israel forgets, God redeems. Every time Peter puts his foot in his mouth, God is right there saying, hey, Peter, come sit by me. Well, let's figure this out.
That's good. Yesterday, Easter service, after services, we had 3 baptisms.
Yeah.
And lots of churches do this. Yeah, they have baptisms on Easter. Very cool. And baptism's that moment where you really put, in my mind, a stake in the ground saying, hey, I'm making a choice in this moment. Or maybe I've made a choice in the past and I'm marking it.
Yep.
And then, like you're describing, often our experiences go on and they're becomes a lessening of fervor, become less passionate from that baptism moment. And I think you guys are the same, but we'll get often calls from people going, hey, can I get baptized again? Because I want to put another. And we tend to be, I'll just speak for me, tend to be like, maybe baptism is not the right way to put another stake in the ground, but let's find a great way to put another stake in the ground, another marker, another pile of rocks, to use the Old Testament Jewish, another altar, another, memorial. I think Christmas we have some song about Ebenezer or something, right? Another thing that we put up that we can that remind us as we look back. So I don't know. I was just thinking about that as you were talking about having those markers in our life.
You and I were talking about that
not
too long ago. That the church is just really bad at finding ways to celebrate. Other than the sacrament, we have communion, we have baptism, and so when we think of like God has done this amazing thing in my life, I want to celebrate that. It's like, well, we have baptism, and you don't want to. I don't think you want to do that again.
I would discourage that. Yeah.
So do you make a pile of rocks? Julie's family used to do the Joshua stones, where you'd write a promise on a rock.
I like it.
Put it in a jar, and eventually you fill the jar with God's promises, which is really cool. So finding ways to celebrate that, to keep those continual reminders is a good thing, because we're bad at that.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the purpose on somewhat finding the continual reminder is communion. I think that's why Jesus, before all of this goes down, establishes communion, because he says this is going to be a foundational moment to come back to. Yeah, and I think the two greatest aspects are what it causes us to reflect and remember something pivotal, right? But I also think there's a communal aspect of that is so important with communion, right? Like it's the idea of doing it together with your church, with your family, and that part of it. And so as we're talking about just trying to have consistency and this idea of things to come back to, man, to me, that's why we meet on Sundays. Like it is that consistency thing to be able to come back to and to worship with your family and to be able to do that. And when I say family, I mean your church family, not like just me and Ashley, but like everybody. And it's a difference, because I can do that with Ashley at home, and we can do it at other times during the week. Like we've come to band practices and worship and stuff like that. But like being with the church, being with my family, there's just something different about that. And I think that God instituted that incredibly on purpose. And I think it's just an incredible thing that brings us back too.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. That's a reset each week, an easy reset, where however you look at it, start your week, end your week, whatever it is for you, with the right focus. Yeah. And so we all know people who are like, I love God, I don't have to go to church. And I'm pretty critical against that mentality of, you need to go to church. Yes. Find your church. Find one that fits you, you know, whatever. It doesn't have to be Northpointe, it doesn't have to be whatever, but you got to find a community of people that you can worship with at least once a week, to reset, that holds you accountable, that you celebrate with, that you put those markers in the ground of what God's doing in my life.
And this was a growing thing that I had to do. I remember in college, I was so focused on my relationship with God, because I really needed to strengthen that.
Very American, by the way.
Yes. An individual connection, me and God. And I would actually, like when we would sing worship songs that mentioned I would change it to me, because it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to strengthen my relationship, and you can kind of build that up as like this honorable thing. Yeah. And I eventually came to the point where I was like, I'm cheapening the value of the body of Christ because I'm elevating my relationship with God above what he's placed around me, that he wants me in this community. It's not to say that you can't experience God in nature, that you can't experience God in your personal devotions or your Bible studies or whatever it might be. Those are great things, and they're not replacements for the church.
Right. That's right.
Which is a really important thing, to have that communal, relational aspect where you can, like, when I go, 8 weeks from now and I'm not feeling the passion and excitement from Easter, Chris and Jake can come alongside me and say, hey, Mark, we're going to carry you a little bit. We're going to encourage you and challenge you and support you, because if it's just me and God, I don't get that. Right. I don't get that. I mean, the Holy Spirit can certainly do that. And
absolutely.
And does do that in my life. Yep. And he often does that through other people.
Other people are God's plan A for us. So yeah. Something we say a lot around here. So yeah,
good stuff.
Like it.
Anything else with Easter that we want to leave people with? Anything left unsaid?
No.
I did want to ask, not everybody who was here was able to get one of the little booklets. So I didn't know. I was going to try and Google it up, but you guys are much better than I'd have to quit playing my game. But like just what that is, and maybe if we can quickly find a resource, or if you want to put it in the comments or whatever on this, for people to be able to find that.
Yeah, I'll try to put it in the description. So Rick talked about it in his message. J. Warner Wallace, who is a cold case investigative detective, so he specializes in looking at cases that have gone cold, and you got to read his story. Some of it's like it's incredible that Stu would investigate cases that are like have gone cold for 30, 40, 50 years. And one of the things that he really differentiates, this is what I love, is that the most valuable evidence that any investigator can have is eyewitness testimony. And this is something that, like, especially in America, because we have movies and TV shows about the law and order and dun dun, all that. And whenever they say evidence is circumstantial, that makes you think, oh, it's bad evidence. But all evidence except for eyewitness testimony is circumstantial evidence.
Sure.
You correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So that's one of the points that he makes, is like, that's how important eyewitness testimony is. And so that the fact that you have all this eyewitness testimony written, not just from the disciples' perspective, but you have other historians, he looks into that, investigates it as an atheist, trying to prove Christianity wrong. So he writes it, all this in his book called Cold Case Christianity. Great book. He has a bunch of YouTube talks too. That's how I got introduced to him. He's got like...
That's like a podcast no, right? Do you sneeze into the mic? I don't remember. I can't remember that.
Yeah,
I think I have a rule.
Cup it.
Yeah, that wasn't the arm.
Cup it and sneeze. So his full book is called Cold Case Christianity, and then we have a small booklet called Alive, which is like a shorter, abbreviated version on his investigation, specifically around the resurrection, proving that actually happened, and all of the evidence we have around that, which is a really, really good resource. So you can find that on Amazon. Cold Case Christianity. The smaller booklet is called Alive. I think you can get it for $2.
Nice.
So it's a really good and he has a full website where all of this stuff is on his website for free. So he's got blogs and videos and all this stuff. Great resource. So if you are a skeptic, or if you know someone that's a skeptic, this is someone that, for me, like, who is very analytical and likes looking at it from the detective side of things. That's how this guy writes. It's how he talks. Super good resource. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, you had me at YouTube, so.
Great. Cool. He's got some good stuff. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking a break and not submitting questions. That's okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking time to be with family, celebrate Easter. Good stuff. Thanks, you guys, for your time.
Sure.
Thanks, not Rick. Always appreciate it. Good stuff. We'll see you next week.